dzisiejszym odcinku mam coś na temat niecodziennej sytuacji, która miała miejsce w 1994 roku w Zimbabwe. Wtedy to duża grupa dzieci w wieku od 8 do 12 lat zgłosiła, że podczas porannej przerwy widziały UFO i dziwne istoty. Od tego momentu minęło już niemal 30 lat, a dzieci te są teraz już dorosłymi ludźmi rozsianymi po całym świecie i pomimo tego nie zmienili oni swojej historii. Jeżeli interesuje Was tematyka UFO, a nie widzieliście nigdy nagrań opowieści tych dzieci, to zachęcam do obejrzenia tego odcinka do końca, ponieważ powstawiam sporo fragmentów ze starych nagrań. Koniecznie musicie zobaczyć, w jaki sposób oni to opowiadają. Pokażę Wam dziś również kilka relacji, które zostały nagrane po wielu latach od tego wydarzenia, dlatego jeszcze raz zachęcam do obejrzenia odcinka w całości.
Hundreds of people today phoned the ZBC saying they sighted an unidentified flying object.
People from all over Zimbabwe were phoning the BBC to say, we've seen something weird. Friday.
The silver thing in amongst this clump of trees.
We saw this black figure running.
His face was like this and his eyes were down here.
Cześć, witam Was na kanale Ciekawostki i inne dziwy na luzie. Dziś mam dla Was taki nietypowy odcinek, jak na te wszystkie filmiki, które pojawiały się do tej pory na moim kanale. Odcinek zacznę od samego wydarzenia, a później zobaczymy, co te dzieci miały wtedy do powiedzenia i co mówią teraz. Na szczęście dostępne są w sieci nagrania z 1994 roku, kiedy jedna z telewizji nagrała program właśnie o tym wydarzeniu. Muszę przyznać, że reakcje i opowieści dzieci wyglądają bardzo realistycznie, o wiele lepiej niż potrafi zagrać niejedno dziecko w normalnych kinowych filmach. Cała sytuacja miała miejsce, tak jak mówiłem, w 1994 roku w szkole w Rówie, na wschód od Harare. Podczas porannej przerwy dzieci bawiły się na szkolnym boisku, ale w pewnym momencie dostrzegły coś nietypowego. Wyglądało to powiedzmy, że na jakby taki główny srebrny statek, jakby statek matka, który miał wokół siebie 4 inne obiekty. Następnie skierował się on na wzgórze za dziedzińcem szkolnym, które było z tamtego miejsca niewidoczne dla dzieci. Zaciekawione dzieciaki pobiegły w tamtym kierunku, żeby zobaczyć, co to jest. Wtedy zaobserwowały małą istotę, która chodziła po pokładzie statku, a druga z nich szła w kierunku dzieci. Z ich relacji wynika, że tajemnicza istota była ubrana na czarno w coś podobnego do bardzo obcisłego garnituru. Do tego istota ta miała mieć duże oczy niczym piłki do rugby. Wydaje się, że miał miejsce tam jakiś rodzaj komunikacji niewerbalnej pomiędzy dziećmi a tymi istotami. Tematem tej powiedzmy, że rozmowy był stan świata, a więc to, co robią ludzie na planecie i jakie zniszczenia powodują. Tutaj muszę jednak podkreślić to, że nie wszystkie dzieci otrzymały tę wiadomość. Niektóre z nich były w szoku, inne były podekscytowane, a najmłodsze były ponoć przestraszone, ponieważ znajdowały się na przodzie grupy. Po całym zdarzeniu dzieciaki wróciły z krzykiem do nauczycieli, ale ci oczywiście nie uwierzyli w ich słowa. Temat nie został jednak zamknięty, ponieważ po powrocie do domu wszystkie powtórzyły historię swoim rodzicom, a ci kolejnego dnia wybrali się do szkoły porozmawiać z nauczycielami, co tak bardzo wystraszyło ich dzieci. W pewnym momencie zostały one poproszone o narysowanie tego, co widziały. Miały to zrobić oddzielnie, a być może chodziło tam o jakieś małe odosobnienie. Tego nie jestem pewien. W relacjach z tamtego wydarzenia możemy przeczytać, że wszystkie rysunki były takie same, ale jednak osobiście zakładam, że po prostu były w większości podobne do siebie i zbieżne. Omawianym dzisiaj tematem zainteresowała się nawet telewizja i pierwsza na miejscu pojawiła się ekipa z BBC wraz z profesorem psychiatrii z Harvardu Johnem Mackiem. Miało to miejsce w listopadzie 1994 roku, a w realizacji tego programu pomagał mu południowoafrykański producent Nicky Carter. Człowiek ten nieco wcześniej nakręcił już krótki film dokumentalny właśnie w tej tematyce dla telewizji SABC. Jako ciekawostkę dodam, że jego przyrodni brat uczył się właśnie w tej szkole, ale w tamtym dniu był chory, więc nie było go na zajęciach.
Could you tell me what you saw on Friday?
Well, it looked like it was like glinting in the trees. Like it looked like roundabout like a disc, like a round.
Are you sure it
Yeah.
wasn't a Harrier jump jet or
No,
something that the Zimbabwe Air
It
Force
was
have
like
got?
in a disc.
I saw something silver on the ground amongst the trees and a person in black.
They had big black eyes. That's all I saw. I saw a glimpse. They kind of turned around and stared and then went back into a kind of like ship.
I saw this silver thing in amongst this clump of trees with this one thing sitting on the side and another thing sort of like running up and down the top.
What does he look like?
His face was like this and his eyes were down here.
We were playing down over there on the log.
Yeah?
And then we saw something shiny, so we all ran down over there.
And it was in the early morning?
It was at break time.
Yeah?
and then we saw something shiny, and we saw two people. They were in tight black suit, and they had big eyes and a small. We didn't actually see their nose, but it was quite small, and their mouth was quite small as well. One of them was running in slow motion up across the ship, and the other one was standing beside the ship.
Yeah, you made a drawing, huh? It looked like this?
No, yeah, something like that. I couldn't see the eyes or the nose or the mouth. It was just blank, like a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when they came, I thought they were crazy.
Was that the first thing you thought?
I thought they were crazy just coming to our school doing nothing. And all I saw was something like silver coming down, and I said, what must that be? And everybody's crowding it. I must go crowd too. And then I went and I started crowding, and everybody, then more people came and more. And then I said, hey, I can't see anymore. Come on, somebody, I'm short. Come on. And then I went to the front and I started seeing more of them, and then I just ran away.
W różnych odcinkach na kanale Ciekawostki i inne dziwy bardzo często mowa jest o ekspertach ze swojej dziedziny, którzy przez lata byli szanowani, ale wystarczy tylko, że zajmą niewygodne stanowisko w jakiejś kwestii albo poruszą temat tabu w danej społeczności. Wtedy to zaczynają się ataki w ich stronę albo chociaż wyśmiewanie i podważanie ich autorytetu. Dotyczy to zarówno archeologii, jak i medycyny, ale również pozostałych obszarów nauki. Jedną z takich szanowanych osób w swojej dziedzinie był wspomniany John Mack, psychiatra, który otrzymał nawet nagrodę Pulitzera. Jednak w momencie, gdy zaczął badać zjawisko zgłoszonych uprowadzeń przez kosmitów, to jego akademicy koledzy zaczęli patrzeć na niego z byka. W 1994 roku, kiedy ukazała się jego książka pod tytułem Porwanie, to w efekcie powołano nawet komisję, która miała m.in. zbadać ludzi, którzy dzielili się z autorem książki swoimi opowieściami. Chcieli oni po prostu z tego psychiatry zrobić głupka i świra. Według BBC
po raz pierwszy w historii profesor Harvardu został poddany takiemu dochodzeniu.
Śledztwo to trwało aż 14 miesięcy i ostatecznie Harvard wydał oświadczenie, w którym stwierdzono, że pan Mack ma
swobodę do badania tego, czego chce oraz do wyrażania swoich opinii bez przeszkód.
Później w wywiadzie dla BBC wspomniał to wydarzenie i tutaj zacytuję jego słowa.
Nigdy nie powiedziałbym, tak, są kosmici zabierający ludzi. Powiedziałbym, że istnieje tutaj fascynujące, potężne zjawisko, którego nie mogę wyjaśnić w żaden inny sposób. Jeszcze nie wiem, co to jest, ale wydaje mi się, że zachęca to do głębszego, dalszego dochodzenia.
He's a Harvard psychiatrist.
Meet Dr. John Mack, a believer in aliens from outer space.
We came away convinced that an extraordinary event occurred here.
I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world.
How did that get communicated to you?
It came through my head.
Somehow there was a message about pollution from the way he was staring?
Yes.
There's been a UFO alert across southern Africa.
This is a continuation of possible UFO story.
A large, brightly coloured object was seen travelling very fast above Zimbabwe, Zambia and South Africa.
I thought it was an alien and he had big eyes.
Several planes saw it. The experts are baffled.
Niestety profesor ten w 2004 roku został zabity w Londynie przez pijanego kierowcę. Wracając już bezpośrednio do tematu dzisiejszego odcinka, to dzieci, które zobaczyły UFO i kosmitów, reprezentowały różne grupy etniczne. W ich gronie były zarówno te pochodzenia afrykańskiego o czarnym kolorze skóry, ale także Azjaci, których dziadkowie pochodzili z Indii, a także białe dzieciaki urodzone głównie w Zimbabwe, których rodzice pochodzili z Afryki Południowej lub Wielkiej Brytanii. Jak sam jeszcze wcześniej powiedział, na uczelni usłyszał, że wpadł pod ostrą kolegów, bo zasugerował w swojej książce, że jego odkrycia mogą wymagać zmiany naszego postrzegania rzeczywistości i to im się nie spodobało. Gdyby w swoich wnioskach napisał on, że znalazł nowy zespół psychiatryczny, którego przyczyna nie została jeszcze ustalona, no to wtedy nie byłoby takiego zamieszania wokół jego osoby. Psychiatrzy mogliby sobie wymyślić nową chorobę, a koncerny farmaceutyczne zaraz by znalazły na to jakieś lekarstwo. Interes by się kręcił, wszyscy byliby zadowoleni.
The day before the spaceship came, my friends and I were sitting in the playground, and one of my friends, her name Emily, she looked up into the sky and she said, "Oh, there's a UFO." She said, and I looked at it and she said, "No, just kidding, it's an airplane." And we looked up and I thought to myself, that can't be an airplane because it was very shiny. It looked kind of like a cigarette, you know. It was a long thing, and then on the end it was all shiny, and so I said, maybe it is a UFO. So we were all kind of like getting scared now. And then the day that it happened, then we started thinking, yeah, there must have been a UFO in the sky. Because my brother also saw it, but he's left the school now.
It was sort of like a round shape, sort of like a plate, sort of like two plates that were sort of like on top of each other. Then there was sort of like the hole, the hatch for it, and it was sort of like in between two trees. But you couldn't see that clearly, and it was just silver all over. And I didn't see any men or something like that.
You saw one UFO, but surrounded by little ones?
Yeah, one big one. One spaceship.
Yeah?
Little ones around.
Yeah, let me see. Let me see your drawing. One big one?
One big ship and then small ones surrounding it with there were lights.
Yeah.
Surrounding the ship.
Like Sean's, huh? This is Sean's drawing.
Yes. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Łączy je to, że wszystkie one należały zapewne do dosyć zamożnych rodzin, bo często w tej szkole nie było zbyt niskie. Badacze uważają, że różnice kulturowe pomiędzy tymi dziećmi, bo jak wspominałem, wywodziły się one z różnych rejonów świata, to sprawiły one, że pojawiły się nieco odmienne interpretacje tego zaobserwowanego zjawiska. Dla przykładu, jeden z białych uczniów początkowo pomyślał, że mały człowiek ubrany na czarno mógł być ogrodnikiem jego sąsiadki. Potem jednak, gdy dojrzał, że postać ma długie, proste czarne włosy, które nie pasują do włosów czarnoskórego ogrodnika, to zmienił swoje zdanie. Niektóre z czarnoskórych dzieci myślały, że te małe dziwne istoty to zikwambo lub tokonoszes, a więc jakieś stwory z lokalnego folkloru.
Okay, one landed, the big one landed, and the two aliens came out.
Yes.
And what happened with the little ones?
The little ones, they were just flowing around in the air. They didn't touch the ground.
And then these made the silver lights?
Yeah. They were making different color lights, like green, red,
flash to green, then they'd go to blue,
and then purple.
Yeah, purple and red. But it was like it was going like each one to each one, but quickly.
Yeah, like they'll go there and then it'll vanish, and then it'll go there and vanish, and then vanish.
Oh, really?
But going quickly, like as if it was one ship moving to places.
Inny z chłopców powiedział zaś, że widział małego człowieka mającego około metr wzrostu, który był ubrany w czarny, błyszczący garnitur i miał on bardzo długie czarne włosy. Jego oczy miały być umieszczone niżej niż nasze ludzkie, a do tego były duże i wydłużone. Do tego jego usta były tylko szczeliną, a uszy dało się ledwo co dostrzec.
What happened? You came home and you told your parents?
Yes. Some of them didn't believe it. My mom didn't believe me.
Your mom didn't believe you?
My mom also didn't believe me.
Is that hard? Because if you see something and nobody believes you, what happens?
Well, you feel sad.
You start lost out. You start to think as if it wasn't true. Yeah. And people say to you, no, it wasn't true, so you think it wasn't true.
Then you think that you're mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, you get all upset.
Yeah, and everyone starts teasing. And my friends over the road, when I go there and I tell them about it, they just say, oh, he believes in aliens, oh, he's stupid.
You've seen too many movies.
Yeah.
Was there nobody in your neighborhood who believed you?
My mom and dad believed me. My granny and my granddad believed me, but my uncle didn't.
Dziś są dostępne na YouTubie i w jednym z nich piątoklasista o imieniu Francis mówił psychiatrze, że podczas tego tajemniczego kontaktu został ostrzeżony o czymś, co się wydarzy. I do tego przekazano mu jeszcze,
że musimy zwrócić uwagę na zanieczyszczenie środowiska.
Where the spaceship had landed, all the insects and ants and stuff like that were all dead, and there was a huge black mark there. And my mom said it might have just been a fire there, but I don't think there was. I think it was the alien ship.
Yeah, but you have gone to the place, of course, and have you seen anything?
No, we weren't allowed
An
there.
evidence, I mean, that it was there?
Some other people came to the school and they went out the boundary of the playground and they went to go and see what had happened there, and they saw that the grass was burnt and all the living things had died there in that area. Him and his parents and his brother and sister all believed me. And my mother just believed me, but my dad didn't believe anything I said. Anything.
And did you describe it to them? exactly what happened?
Yeah, and I drew it on a paper and I said, Daddy, this is what it looked like. And then he drew it well and he said, Michael, I think you're telling the truth now. And then that's all he said of it, and that's all.
11-letnia Emma powiedziała, że według niej oni, w sensie ci kosmici, chcieli, aby ludzie wiedzieli, że wyrządzają krzywdę swojej planecie i że nie powinniśmy iść tak bezmyślnie w kierunku mocnego rozwoju technologii. Co do kwestii środowiska, to już kilka lat później okoliczne drzewa były wycięte jako drewno opałowe, a niestety sam psychiatra, który zajmował się tym tematem i był wyśmiewany przez kolegów po fachu, tak jak już mówiłem, zginął potrącony przez samochód.
Who was scared? Not all of you, huh? Who was dreaming about it since then?
Yes.
In a bad way?
Bad way.
Yeah, in a bad way? No, tell me first in a bad way. Why? You have nightmares about it?
Yes, I used to, but then after about a year, I stopped dreaming about it. I dreamt that the same one I saw without hair, he came into my bedroom and he took me from my bed.
Did you dream that?
Yes.
Yeah?
And then I just screamed. I woke up and screamed.
And what did your mom say?
Well, she just kept on saying it was a nightmare. She didn't really believe me.
I wasn't scared a bit.
No, not at all.
Nothing. It was all fun to me.
I heard this lady on TV, I think it was Jill Dark, and she said this lady got kidnapped and she had babies that were aliens.
That's what you're afraid of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the aliens came because they're curious like us, and they want to learn about us and we want to learn about them. Some people say that people are saying that the aliens came to warn us something's going to happen, that something bad is going to happen to the earth.
Yeah?
I think they came here to try and warn us that the children that because we're young,
we've got a long time.
We've got a long time till we die. To warn us that when we're older, there's something going to happen to the earth.
Yeah, not to pollute. Because we're young, we can still prevent it.
Yeah.
Do you still have all that feeling? That as a child you can do a lot?
Yes. I have it.
Yeah? Do you feel, as a child, do you feel privileged? Or do you think, next time if the UFO is coming, please go to another school?
No, I feel privileged.
You feel privileged that you saw it?
I'd love them to come back and you could see them again. But only this time closer.
They phoned the ZBC saying they sighted an unidentified flying object.
Was a bright, radiant light. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It was the absence of noise I didn't like.
People from all over Zimbabwe were phoning the BBC to say, we've seen something weird.
There were three of us that saw it. Myself, the co-pilot, and the pilot in the other aircraft.
No wings, no nothing. Shiny oval thing.
Oh my gosh. I was right on the logs when it actually happened.
We are the ones who drew those funny pictures.
Something that I'll never ever forget.
I've drawn this again.
But I usually kept it quiet.
People think you're crazy.
My husband doesn't even know about it.
You feel so alone in society.
Would you like to see him again?
Yes.
And if you saw him again, what would you do?
I'll ask him some questions.
What would you like to ask him?
I'll ask him what is he doing on Earth and what does he want with us.
Wiele lat później twórca filmowy Randall Nickerson podjął się nakręcenia na nowo reportażu z tego incydentu. Odwiedził więc południową Afrykę i też szkołę Ariel w Zimbabwe. Porozmawiał on tam z wieloma ludźmi, którzy mieli do powiedzenia coś w temacie tamtego wydarzenia UFO, ale jeżeli chodzi o te dzieciaki z tamtej szkoły, no to w kraju pozostała tylko jedna osoba. Reszta wyjechała do Stanów, Kanady czy Nowej Zelandii, albo tak jak było w kilku przypadkach, już w tamtym czasie po prostu nie żyli. Twórca filmowy Nickerson podkreśla, że relacje tych ludzi były takie same i nie zmieniły się od 1994 roku. Dopowiem tutaj jeszcze, że podczas swojego pobytu w Afryce natknął się on również na ludzi z dwóch różnych innych szkół w okolicy, którzy mieli mieć podobne obserwacje UFO z 1994 roku. Tutaj widzicie fragment rozmowy Jacques'a Vallée z Jamesem Foxem podczas nagrywania podcastu u Joe Rogana.
Doing my first documentary back in 1997 when I was just naive enough to think I can get an interview with Steven Spielberg. We had a mutual friend involved, this woman Janet. And she gets back to me and she's like, yeah, so Spielberg's definitely not going to meet with you, but he knows you're working on this UFO documentary. He thinks you should look into this landing case that happened in Africa at the school. And I said to myself at the time, and remind you guys that I was making a film on UFOs, and I dismissed it so quickly because I thought there's no way that a mass landing with the sheer volume of eyewitness testimony at a school in broad daylight could happen and the whole world not know about it. So I just walked away from that story for about 10 years. 10 years later, I'm doing an event at the National Press Club with Leslie Kane, who was part of the article in the New York Times that came out in 2017. And she introduced me to this guy, Randall Nickerson. And she's like, oh, he's working on this landing case in Africa. Long story short, he's working on a film now. I think it's coming out next year, specifically on just that case. Dan Farah is producing it. And he said, I'm working on the case, and if you want to do something with me on it, a small piece, I could. So I got back into it. I licensed some of the footage that Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist that came and interviewed the school children on camera within a week of it happening. He unfortunately looked the wrong way in London, got run down by a car and died. So I contacted the Institute with the help of Randall Nickerson. I licensed the archival footage. We tracked down the witnesses today. We flew them in from all different corners of the world, brought them together. A lot of them were standing right next to each other. They came face to face, and one of the things I realized was that there were roughly 100 kids in the playground, broad daylight, Ariel School, Rua, Zimbabwe, 1994, and they got within some of them within arm's length of these beings, and brought these witnesses together for the first time in 20 years. And a lot of them hadn't even told their significant others, just because they said they were tired of having to defend this. And I myself didn't believe it when I first heard about it back in 1997. And that segment of the film is the most, in my opinion, is the most powerful segment, because
it's very compelling.
You've got all these children saying what they saw on camera after it happened, and then you see them 20 years later, and then we go to Africa and we meet with the headmistress, or she was a teacher at the time. We meet with other witnesses. We go to the landing site. We talk to people at the school. That case is absolutely, and it was witnessed by lots of other people in and around the area for several days before it chose a school to land. Stephen?
It's so compelling because the children are all clearly, they're not actors. So as they're adults later, they're all talking about this moment, and it's like they had a religious experience together. Like they're all sharing it and talking about it, and you could tell it's like it's a deeply moving experience. If they were actors, they wouldn't have been able to do such a good job, because to convey the reality of that moment to them, to be able to have this interpretation of this event where they're all consistent in the story and they're all clearly still shook by this moment. It's really interesting, because if you had that scene in a movie, it would take like a really good actor to pull it off. And they'd probably need multiple takes. They'd probably want to get the best one. But those kids, the way they were talking about it and the way they were drawing it, you're like, wow, it really does seem like something happened to them.
I know how credible that the testimony of the children is, because my partner, Rebecca, she's never had much of an interest in what I do, making documentaries on UFOs. I do other things as well. But when I was reviewing in the studio the archival interview of the children, she just dropped off a cup of coffee and she stopped and went, oh my God, those children are not lying. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Because look, I ask your audience to don't take it from me. Just suspend judgment for a moment and imagine, hypothetically, if a UFO or several UFOs landed at a school in broad daylight in Rua, Zimbabwe, Africa, and interacted telepathically with nearly 100 school children. Not all of them had telepathic, but seen the incident. How significant of a story would you give that?
Well, not only that, they had the same message.
Yes.
What the telepathic message was that technology is a real problem.
Yes.
And there's things that people are doing with technology that are going to ruin the earth.
Yes.
And they were trying to relay this to children, which is very strange.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, maybe they just thought they were adults because they were the same size as the aliens. I mean, do you think they knew that they were children? Do you think they understood that it was a school? I mean, this is all speculation, right?
But no, I definitely had to ask myself, look, during the production of the film, Paula Harris actually turned me on to another landing case that happened in Australia in 1966 at a school. And this time there were roughly 300 witnesses that saw a disc land right outside a playground in Australia. And we went to Australia and investigated that case, went to the landing site, talked to eyewitness testimony, people that jumped the fence at the school playground and ran over to where this thing landed. And then we even interviewed a guy who snapped a photograph of a disc, a Polaroid, back in 1966, 2 days prior to the incident. So it's very probably that we have photographic evidence, we have eyewitness testimony, and for the first time we've got testimony from a science teacher. So why do these things land at schools? It seems like, and I'm just totally speculating here, but it seems like if I were going to do that, it seems like a pretty benign environment. When we have testimony from military guys that we take a fairly hostile position towards things that penetrate sensitive military installations. And, so maybe, I'm just saying maybe
it's safe.
There comes a point where you decide whether you're going to confirm everything you know, or you're going to not deny it as such, but find a way to come to terms with it maybe not being true, right? And to be very honest, this was one of the biggest reasons why I had to do this for myself, which is why I actually sought out a hypnotist, right? This was never to sort of go out and just blindly confirm that, yes, what I believe, but I was also kind of hoping that it might not have been true, because either way, the answer that I was going to get was going to help me in one way or another move forward with my own life.
I asked my mom, I said, did you really believe me? And she said, well, you weren't a child who lied, and I may not have believed in what you saw, but I believed in you. So I guess in a way I kind of did. My dad doesn't really say too much about it. Again, very supportive in the fact that he knew that I was not a child who lied, and so therefore supported me. May not necessarily have believed in UFOs or extraterrestrials himself, but knew enough that I wouldn't make something like that up, or let alone be influenced by other people. That just was not me.
Didn't just make things up. Something definitely was happening. Whether it was UFOs or whether it was who knows what else. We can't say for sure one way or the other, but definitely there was something that happened there that day. And it got the whole school riled up. I like to think I'm open-minded, and I try to not be closed-minded, and an opportunity to explore this more, my own memories and other people's memories.
By account, there were actually 3 beings. 2 of them kind of remained within the line of sight from the playground to the craft. And another one, which is also one of my most vivid memories, was one of the beings actually darting from the craft towards the direction of the swimming pool. The swimming pool, which was probably about 200, 300, 400 meters to the left of the playground. And the most peculiar thing was the way in which it moved, because it almost felt as if it would disappear and appear a few meters ahead of itself.
Tymczasem zapraszam Cię na mój główny kanał, czyli Ciekawostki i inne dziwy, gdzie pojawił się najnowszy filmik na temat archiwów watykańskich i ich tajemnic. Dowiesz się z niego, kto ma szansę tam wejść, a kto nigdy nie wejdzie i co należy zrobić, aby o taki dostęp się móc ubiegać. Oczywiście poruszam tam jeszcze znacznie więcej innych kwestii, dlatego kliknij teraz w tą miniaturkę, która Ci się wyświetliła i zostaniesz przeniesiony do tamtego epizodu. Tutaj się już żegnam, dziękuję za wysłuchanie i do usłyszenia w kolejnym odcinku. Cześć!